And welcome, sports fans, to today's Sports Roundtable presented by Harry Blackwell Ford in Malden. Glad you joined us for today's show as we're getting to the tail end of the boys and girls basketball season as we're into Final Four play in the state championships up in Columbia. This week, classes 1 through 3 are finishing up today, which is Saturday, and then classes 4 and 5 will wrap up next weekend at the state Final Four in Columbia. Big games took place Thursday in the semifinal round, which we'll get to in a moment, and the state championships taking place today. The third place games took place yesterday, so a lot of local teams doing some great things here locally, which we'll talk about, and also preview some big games taking place this weekend in quarterfinal play in Class 4 here in Southeast Missouri. So it's probably the biggest weekend of the year, or biggest weekends of the year here over this weekend and next weekend. Teams chasing that state championship, and we're going to do our best to bring it to you right here on YHC Channel 21 and SeamoreSportZone.com. And let's take a look at some of those games that took place Thursday. That took place Thursday in boys high school basketball. Let's look back to Friday. Yesterday, in the third place game in Class 2, Wellington Napoleon defeated Bloomfield 63-58. Bloomfield lost its semifinal game Thursday to Iberia. I believe that score was 65-58 going into overtime. And Bloomfield had to play in the third place game yesterday and fell to Wellington Napoleon, the number 2 ranked team in the state in Missouri, and Bloomfield unranked going into this state tournament. So they made a great run this year. Only had 5 losses on their schedule. Only 3 losses going in to district tournament play. Took 2 losses over the weekend, Thursday and Friday up in Columbia. So a great season. The first time they've been to the Final Four since I think it was 66. So I think it was 50 years since they've been to the Final Four in high school basketball. What a year it's been for the Bloomfield Wildcats. Most of the season been under the radar, as I said, unranked all year, going into the state tournament, going into the Final Four, come away with 4th place. Not a bad finish for the Bloomfield Wildcats. Certainly a season to remember for the Bloomfield community and that high school basketball team. And had to run into some tough opponents up there. Iberia in that semifinal round. Big team. One of the biggest teams I've ever seen at the Class 2 level. Had a big 6'10" guy that Frisbee, last name of Frisbee. He committed to Missouri Southern, and Bloomfield did a good job attacking him. He fouled out early in the 4th quarter, and they really built on that. Towards the end, they were down, I think, 9 points with 3 or 4 minutes to go. Stormed back, tied the game, sent it into overtime, and just fell a little short there in the overtime period. A lot of fouls in this game. I believe Alex Gibbs fouled out in the overtime period for Bloomfield. Also Tim Hector, and as I mentioned, the Frisbee kid for Iberia fouled out. A lot of fouls. So much of the 4th quarter and overtime were 2-shot penalties. So that's what happened in the overtime period in that semifinal game. Bloomfield committed some fouls early in that overtime period, and that sent Iberia to the line shooting 2 for much of that period. 4-minute overtime period. Fell a little short. And went up against a very good team, Wellington Napoleon, the 2nd-ranked team in the state in Class 2. And what a matchup they had in their semifinal game with Hartville. You had the 2 top-ranked teams in the state in Class 2 in the semifinal. Hartville won big, about 30 points over Wellington Napoleon. That just goes to show how good of a team Hartville has this year, advancing on to that state championship today against Iberia. But Bloomfield having a great season, coming home with 4th place, no shame in that. Certainly a team we'll remember here in Southeast Missouri, the 2016 Wildcats out of Bloomfield. And take a look at some other games. Yesterday in the Class 1 third place game, Gideon defeated Glasgow 71-51. A great game by the Gideon Bulldogs, especially to wrap a season up with. The decisive victory over Glasgow to win 3rd place. Gideon, one of their best seasons in school history, winning the 3rd place trophy in Class 1, and I think this might be the best team Gideon's ever had. I know going back to the early and mid-90s, they've had some good teams, 93, 96, and even last year, won their district championship last year, but a lot of that team from last year coming back this year, some great talent on that team. Dalen Hutchinson had a big state tournament. Also, Alan Earnhardt, Kason Lawrence, big-time performances by those kids, especially here late in the year, especially in state tournament play. Coming away with third place, probably the best team in school history there in Gideon. So Keenan Buchanan, longtime coach there at Gideon. Whether this is last year or not, boy, it'd be a good way to wrap a career up with a third-place trophy in the Class 1 state tournament. So we'll see about that. But Gideon, great season, one to remember for the Bulldogs. And taking a look at some other games that took place Thursday in the semifinals. In the girls' Class 1 semifinals, Naylor defeated Walnut Grove, a rematch of last year's state championship game. Naylor fell in that game, but come back to avenge that loss from last year against Walnut Grove in the semifinals, and they won 37-32. Impressive victory. Moving on to play in the state championship game, and they'll play this evening at 6:40 in that state championship game later on today, which we'll talk about a little later in our next segment. And take a look at some other semifinal games of Class 2 semifinals. Girls, Neelyville defeated New Franklin by a score of 63-45. Neelyville advances on to the state championship game in Class 2. It's a wonder. Naylor and Neelyville pretty much right there close to each other out west, and they're both playing the state championship game today, and I believe that game's at 2:40 today up in Columbia. So big game for the Neelyville Lady Tigers, chance to bring home a state championship later on this afternoon. And the Saxony Lutheran Lady Crusaders in Class 3 in the semifinals, they defeated Southern Boone, and that was a score of 53-40. And Saxony Lutheran advances on to that state championship game today. Actually, that's coming up soon at 11 a.m. this morning here on Saturday. Got a chance to win that elusive state title, which we'll talk more about in our next segment. And those are the games from the last few days for Classes 1 through 3. The third place games were wrapped up yesterday with the boys. And all of the Southeast Missouri teams for the girls, Classes 1, 2, and 3, are playing in state championship games today. So a big opportunity for those teams to come away with state titles this weekend. And we got some big games coming up tonight. You'll want to tune in for our broadcast finales for us here at YHC and SeamoreSportsZone.com. These will be the last games we broadcast for the year. Be sure to tune in later tonight as we will bring you the boys and girls Class 4 quarterfinals, starting with the girls at 6 p.m. We've got Dexter versus MICDS. That's Mary Institute of Country Day Schools. That's at 6 o'clock. The Dexter Lady Bearcats having a great run this year. Defeated Fredericktown earlier this Tuesday in the sectional round up in Jackson, which we brought to you live Tuesday night. And Dexter will take on Country Day in the quarterfinals tonight at 6 o'clock from the Farmington Civic Center. We're going to bring it live to you right here on Channel 21 and SeamoreSportsZone.com. And this is going to be a tough opponent for the Lady Bearcats. Country Day, one of the better teams in the state in Class 4. I believe they are ranked number 3 in the state in Class 4. Dexter ranked number 6. So it's going to be a very competitive game tonight, and we'll look forward to bringing that to you right here on YHC. And following that game at 7:45 will be the boys' Class 4 quarterfinals, Sikeston versus Parkway West. And that's going to be a big matchup between those two teams. Sikeston, the number 2 ranked team in the state in Class 4. Parkway West, the number 10 ranked team in the final poll. So a very competitive game set for the Sikeston Bulldogs tonight. They rolled through their sectional round against St. Genevieve. 30-plus point victory for them Tuesday night from Jackson. And probably a tougher test tonight for the Sikeston Bulldogs. We'll see, but should be a good game between those two. The winners advancing to the boys' Class 4 Final Four in Columbia. So we'll see how that plays out tonight from the Farmington Civic Center. Hopefully you'll join us for our final broadcast. These have been the final broadcasts of the year for us. as we head into the state Final Four in Columbia for classes 4 and 5 next week. So we'll see how it plays out tonight. Hopefully you'll join us right here on YHC Channel 21 and SeamoreSportsZone.com. And we're going to take a quick break and break the games down that are taking place today in those girls' championship games, and also wrap up what happened with the boys' class 1 through 3 tournaments in our next segment. Don't go away.
We're Harry Blackwell Ford in Malden, Missouri.
Hello, my name is Tim Ellison. Come see me for the best deal possible. You'll be glad you did.
I'm Blake Miller, and I'm committed to your total satisfaction.
Shop with us at Harry Blackwell Ford in Malden.
Deposit your check here or here or even there. Deposit your check wherever you are with First Midwest Bank's new mobile deposit. Just tap, snap, deposit. It's that simple. New mobile deposit from First Midwest Bank, serving the communities we call home.
The area's fastest internet just got faster. Introducing 100 meg internet, now available from New Wave. With 100 meg, there's nothing you can't do. Browse better, stream more, power every device. This is lightning fast internet designed to fit your family's needs. It's brand new and it's the fastest game in town. Get 100 meg internet from New Wave, your local provider of the speed you need. Call 1-888-8-NEW-WAVE today.
And we're going to break down the games that took place yesterday in the Class 1 and 2 third place games, starting with Gideon winning third place in Class 1 yesterday. As I mentioned in our earlier segment, big season for Gideon. We knew expecting this year a good team from Gideon as they won their district championship, losing to Advance in the sectional round last year. And what a way they come back from last year with a senior-laden group, defeated Advance soundly in that sectional round in that rematch, going on to win third place, much like Advance did last year in Class 1. And certainly a season to remember for the Gideon Bulldogs, winning third place yesterday against Glasgow in Class 1. And it's going to be a little different next year as the Gideon Bulldogs graduate quite a few from that team, but it's going to be a season to certainly look back on for the Gideon Bulldogs. We just don't see that many Tri-County teams make runs in the state tournament. We saw Risco in their 4-year run of winning district championships may make a few runs, but they always ran into Scott County Central eventually in that state tournament when they were in their prime there with the Otto Porters and just the slew of the players they had there at Scott County Central, making it eventually 1 year to the quarterfinals, lost to Scott County Central. But Gideon, one of the few teams we see make it to the Final Four out of the Tri-County Conference. So a great year for the Gideon Bulldogs. And like I said, it's probably one of the better years they've ever had. And certainly the 2016 Bulldogs will certainly live in Tri-County folklore going forward. So congratulations to the Gideon Bulldogs in their Class 1 state run and ending with third place with a 20-point victory. What a year. What a way to end the year on a win. Only two teams end their season on a win. That's those winning first place, the state championship, those winning third place, and they're one of those two teams with the Gideon Bulldogs. So congratulations to the Bulldogs. And we're going to try to get Keaton Buchanan in here the next week or so. If he don't come to us, we'll go to him. We'll go to this doorstep if we have to. But we're going to try to get him on the next show probably in the next week or two. So try to look forward to that coming up. And moving on to Bloomfield, great season by the Bloomfield Wildcats. I wouldn't say a roller coaster season. They had a rough patch there around Christmas, losing in the Christmas tournament and losing to Malden probably a week later. Struggled there at the Christmas tournament, first of the year, but it seems like probably by the second week of the year here in January, back in January, they really righted the ship quickly and really went on a great tear, a great run. and winning their district championship against Scott County Central, and a big win there, winning their district championship, moving on, beating a very good Thayer team. That was probably the toughest game they had up through the state tournament before they got to the Final Four. Was Thayer. Had a buzzer beater by Alex Gibbs to get that win over at the Three Rivers College campus in Poplar Bluff. Big win for the Bloomfield Wildcats there at the wire. Moved on and rolled over Clopton in the quarterfinal round up at Farmington, and to the Final Four. A very good Iberia team. Some great size they had. It was just unbelievable with a small school like that to have a 6'10 and a 6'7 on that team. But Bloomfield fought hard. A big performance by Noah Vandiver in that semifinal game. He had 27 points, right at pretty much half of the points there for the Wildcats. Great performance by him, which they needed it because, like I said, going up against that size, needed that scoring out of the big man, and Noah Vandiver pretty much did it inside and out. Quite a few three-pointers by him in that game, but just coming up a bit short and come away with fourth place after losing to a second-ranked team in the state in Wellington Napoleon. No shame there, but just a great run by Bloomfield. They've been one of the most steady teams this year. They don't light up the scoreboard. We reported their scores all year long. It's been 50 to 42. High scoring game for them is 65 to 58. They're just a methodical team, very balanced, a deep bench, played 9 or 10 kids pretty much all year. Just a talented bunch there that's been together for a while. This team's played together for quite some time, and I can even remember 2 years ago when this bunch was sophomores, and mainly Noah Vandiver was stepping up and playing varsity ball. We talk amongst ourselves in these ball games that this team might have a run potentially at a state championship berth, and they were one game away, but certainly you could tell the talent was there going back a number of years, and they showed it this year with a great run in Class 2. So congratulations to those Bloomfield Wildcats on a great Class 2 state run, finishing with fourth place. And moving on to the girls, big games today as Naylor, Neelyville, and Saxony Lutheran playing for state championships today. And first starting with Saxony Lutheran, they're playing at 11 o'clock coming up this morning, Saturday, playing for that state championship against Stratford. Excuse me. Playing against Stratford in that state championship game. Saxony Lutheran, what a year they've had a great year. What a 4-year run they've had. This is a very unique team, pretty much senior laden with this bunch. And Saxony Lutheran, pretty much they've got, I think right there now at this point, they've got sophomores and seniors. There's really no juniors or freshmen. There might be a junior that stepped in this year, but I can remember last year they had all juniors and freshmen on their team, and I would assume that pretty much their whole roster is seniors and sophomores this year. So this is a pure senior-laden bunch with the Saxony Lutheran Lady Crusaders, and what a run they've had. Going back 3 years ago, they played as freshmen. Even when Dexter was in their good run 3 years ago, they were competing quite well with a very good Dexter team that went to the state Final Four. And everyone knew that when this group was even maybe a year or two older, they were going to be making deep runs into the state tournament, and they've done so. But man, the one thing that's escaped them is a state championship. They've got state championship talent probably over the last 3 years. Have just come up a bit short. I believe they fell a bit short of the state Final Four there 3 years ago. 2 years ago, they went and really got beat up on in the state Final Four, come away with fourth place. And then last year, lost a heartbreaking overtime game with Park Hill Central in the quarterfinals in Hillsboro. And Park Hill Central went on to win the state championship last year. This year, it's kind of a scare. They had an injury to one of their best players, if not their best player. Golly, her name escapes me right now, but nonetheless, she had an injury earlier I think over the summer, had a torn ACL, and she was able to come back mid-season this year. So a good break for Saxony Lutheran, almost a kind of a heartbreaking loss, coming back with a senior-laden group, one of the top teams in the state in Class 3. I think it was Weezer, I believe her name was, if I'm not mistaken. And she comes back, and they've got their full slate team together. She's coming back and really playing well. It seems like she hasn't missed a beat from last year's season. and they put together a great run. They defeated Park Hill Central in the Class 3 quarterfinals last week back in Hillsboro. So they won that rematch, defeating the defending state champion Park Hill Central Lady Rebels. Now they're advancing on. They got a nice victory in the semifinal round. Now they're playing in the state championship today. So it's going to be a very climactic game for these Saxon Lutheran Lady Crusaders. They've got a lot of enthusiasm and looking forward to that state championship today, as it's going to be the final game for this senior bunch, as they've made quite a run over the last 4 years here in southeast Missouri. Very talented bunch, and we just hope that they bring home that state championship. They've been capable of winning one for probably the last 3 years. Just hasn't been put together over the last few years, and they're going for that state championship game coming up at 11 o'clock later today. So sure to look forward to that. And you can watch these games, these state championship games, at basically go to NFHSnetwork.com, NFHSnetwork.com, or go to MSHA.org, MSHSAA.org, and there will be a MSHA.TV logo. You can click on that. It'll take you to the NFHS Network website. It is a pay-per-view webcast. I believe for one-day access, it's $9.95. You'll have to pay with a credit card or debit card, and it'll give you one-day access. You can watch these state championship games, all of these games. Or you can buy a monthly pass, $14.95, and watch not only today's games, but next week's games in Class 4 and 5. You can watch those as well. Or even go back and watch you can even go back and watch the replays, or you can watch them on demand, the semifinal games or the third place games over the last few days. So it is a pay-per-view webcast, but it is available there online. So Saxon Lutheran coming up at 11 o'clock later on today at 2:40. 2:40 is Neelyville state championship game. Neelyville's in the state championship, as they will take on Crane. Crane coming into the game at 31-1. A very impressive team in Crane. I believe they're I think they're the top-ranked team in the state in Class 2. So Neelyville's got their hands full. They come into the game 26-4, and a couple of those losses coming to Dexter, I believe. So no shame in those 4 losses. So Neelyville's got their hands full with a very talented Crane team. Chance to win that state championship later on today at 2:40 at the Mizzou Arena in Columbia. So Neelyville's had another couple of those runs as well. They've got a very talented bunch going back probably a couple of years. They've made some state tournament runs, but haven't made to the state championship until this year. Got a chance to make history there in Neelyville with that state championship. And also the Naylor Lady Eagles having a great run. They went to the state championship last year, lost to Walnut Grove in that state title game, and won that rematch in the semifinal round against Walnut Grove. So they're in the back end of the state championship, as they will take on Mound City. Mound City comes into the game 29-1. Very impressive run. Naylor's at 23-7. And that championship game is taking place tonight at 6:20 at the Mizzou Arena in Columbia. So good luck to those Naylor Lady Eagles chasing that state championship tonight in Columbia. So 3 teams, can you believe it? Classes 1 through 3 all making it to the state championship game. So big weekend for Southeast Missouri girls basketball. Chances to come home with state championships later on today. And let's move on from those girls games and talk about some girls action taking place tonight in the Class 4 quarterfinals. The Dexter Lady Bearcats taking on Country Day. That's Mary Institute of Country Day Schools at 6 p.m. this evening. Dexter having another fine season once again this year. Find themselves once again in the quarterfinal round. Come up a bit short last year. Lost to North County in the sectional round in Jackson. Last year, kind of a heartbreaker loss there. Late for the Lady Bearcats. They come back with a strong season this year in the quarterfinal round, as they've been quite a bit over the years after winning 6 straight district championships. Back into the quarterfinal round this year in Farmington at the Farmington Civic Center, and a very talented Country Day team. Country Day coming into this year probably one of the favorites to compete for a state championship. I know Incarnate Word's still there in the mix. They're ranked 2 in the state, and another team's right there in the mix. as well as number one ranked team. But going to be a tough game for the Lady Bearcats this evening. Country Day is going to be one of the better teams they've faced this year. Very talented bunch there in Country Day. Country Day was right there in the mix of last year, but Incarnate Word pretty much beat up on them on the way to the Final Four last year. So Country Day's been there in the mix the last few years. It just seems they've always ran into Incarnate Word as they were in their run over the last few years, but they're right there back in the mix again this year. Dexter has a chance to go back to the Final Four with a victory tonight, and that's at 6 o'clock from the Farmington Civic Center. We're going to bring it live to you right here on live television, Channel 21, here on YHC TV, and online at SemosportZone.com. So be sure to tune in for that live from Farmington this evening. And also tonight, you can look forward to the boys Class 4 quarterfinals. That's Sikeston versus Parkway West. And that'll be at 7:45 this evening, and we're bringing that live to you as well right here on YHC and SemosportZone.com. And Sikeston having one of their seasons to remember, probably right up there with the 2011 undefeated season, 30-0. They've got a great season going once again. Only one loss to Cape Central. Avenged that loss in that district final a few weeks back. Got a big victory in the sectional round Tuesday night. Just unbelievable win. It's the first time we've actually seen Sikeston here on YHC and SemosportZone.com this year. They're in that sectional round, but man, they were hitting on all cylinders. Dominic Dyes was hitting from outside. Fred Thatch was taking it to the basket, had a couple dunks in that game. Kimball had a big game. Just all around, just such a good team. Such well coached by Greg Hollifield. It's just one of the better teams you'll see in Southeast Missouri or even the state. Just unbelievable talent they've got on that team, and just such chemistry they have. Just a fun team to watch, and looking forward to them taking on Parkway West this evening. Parkway West, the number 10th ranked team in the state, coming into this game in Class 4. It's going to be a formidable opponent. They got some size, I think upwards to 6'8". 6'8" kid on this team. They're very disciplined. They don't turn the ball over. Got very good guard play. So Sykes is going to have their hands full with Parkway West this evening, but looking forward to seeing how that plays out as the Sykes and Bulldogs have a chance to go back to the Final Four. It's been a few years back since they've been in the Final Four, but got a chance to advance to the Final Four with a victory over Parkway West this evening. Starting at 7:45, live from the Farmington Civic Center. We'll bring it live to you right here on Channel 21. And moving on from that, we got some news, local news, coaching news. Dustin Ferguson, head coach of the Hayti boys basketball team over the last 2 years, is stepping away from the sideline next year as he's taking a principal position at Clarkton. And he's a Clarkton native, went to school at Clarkton, had a great career, 2,000-point scorer there at Clarkton, and coached at Clarkton a few years back, and went to Hayti over the last few years, now going back to Clarkton as a principal and step away from the sidelines. So Dustin Ferguson, one of our fine young coaches in the area, certainly has had some success over the last few years, won a district championship at Clarkton, and won the Boot Hill Conference this year in Hayti. Had a great year there at Hayti, returning a good bunch next year, but he's stepping away from the sideline to take that principal job at Clarkton, going back home where he's from. So wish Dustin Ferguson the best of luck in his endeavor there at Clarkton. And he's been one of our good friends here at YHC. He's come on the show many times, talked about his Clarkton teams, also his Hayti teams. And it's going to be a little sad to see him step away from the sideline, but I wish him the best of luck going forward and his goals there in education there at Clarkton. But we thank Dustin Ferguson for being a good friend to us here at YHC and coming on the show and talking to us and being in front of the viewers out there. So best of luck to Dustin Ferguson going forward. And we're going to take another break and kind of wrap up our show for today. Not a whole lot going on, but spring sports getting underway. We're pretty much wrapping up the basketball season, and we're going to wrap it up in our next segment coming up.
You just can't do it anymore, but you want to stay in your own home. Bales is the place to call. Bales is committed to helping people like you to maintain your independence and live your life on your terms with dignity. Bales can help with your family getting paid for taking care of you. There is no need to live anywhere but our own home with Boot Heel Area Independent Living Services there to help. Just call 888-449-0949 or stop by 719 Tico Road in Kennett to find out more. Bales, Boot Heel Area Independent Living Services, serving Dunkland, New Madrid, Pemiscot, and Stoddard counties.
What is your emergency? Need assistance at County Road 61 and Highway 9. Help is on its way.
Clear! There's a better way to jumpstart your soil back to health. Apply Endzone to protect and increase nitrogen efficiency without killing bacteria. Apply Prevent to increase phosphorus availability and reduce fixation. Better yet, use them both to get more from your fertilizer investment and see higher potential yields. Ag Explorer, your prescription for healthy soil.
The competitive edge. It's the edge that sets you apart from your competition. Every business needs it. Now every business can get it. Partner with Advanced Business Solutions and give your business the competitive edge. Advanced Business Solutions, delivered by New Wave, offers scalable fiber optic-based internet solutions to fit your needs. Now you can download without the wait on a network designed for you. Call Advanced Business Solutions and get the competitive edge for as low as $39.99 per month.
We're Harry Blackwell Ford in Malden, Missouri.
Hi, my name is Richard Clark. Come by and see me for the best deal possible and I'll take care of you.
Hey, I'm Robert Sandage, and I've been here for 17 years helping people with their financing needs.
Shop with us at Harry Blackwell Ford in Malden.
And welcome back, and we're going to wrap up the show for today as not a whole lot to talk about other than these big weekends with state Final Fours in Columbia. Classes 1 through 3 wrapping up today. Classes 4 and 5 will get underway next week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And got quarterfinal games to take place today in classes 4 and 5. So we'll be looking forward to bringing our last broadcasts of the year. It's been a long year. Bringing you football back in the fall and now basketball, but it's been fun. It's been a great year. We've seen a lot of teams step up their games that been previously kind of middle of the pack or even below, the bottom half of the pack. A lot of good basketball this year. I know we expected not as much talent, I would say individual talent in some of our teams in Southeast Missouri, but I think as a whole, collectively, these teams have played well and competed well. As we see in the girls. 3 teams playing the state championships today. The boys, Gideon and Bloomfield advancing to the state Final Four this year. We'll have a good chance of seeing maybe Dexter in Class 4 for the girls make it, and even Sikeston with the boys in Class 4. So it's been a good year. It's been a lot of good team play. We're seeing some good collective teams this year. And I think it makes for a good year, seeing these teams put together great teams and advancing on into state tournament play and eventually into the Final Four. So it's been a great year. I've been talking to Tommy Jacobs, our good contributor, Terry McVeigh, and just the guys that we do games with. And, we've been talking amongst ourselves, the games that we do try to put the most competitive games we can, but we try to get to about every school that's in our area to try to at least do a game or two with each school that in the coverage area we are. And it just seems like we haven't really had any blowouts this year. It seems like every game we've done have been pretty competitive across the board. And it's kind of unusual. Usually it seems like we'll have a handful of just blowouts. But it just seems like it hasn't been the case this year. I think we've had maybe a couple. Maybe just 2 or 3 that we've had that just kind of been lopsided. But for the most part, it's been very competitive this year. And it's been a fun year to cover. And looking forward to going into these gyms every night that we do a game and not really knowing how the outcome's going how it's going to come out. So it's been a very competitive year, and makes it certainly good for TV. When you turn on a game, you certainly want to be competitive, and that's what we've pretty much been able to bring to you this year when it comes to Tri-County, Boot Hill Conference, Seymour Conference, Stoddard County Conference. It's across the board been very competitive, and been a great year to bring to you right here on YHC and online at SemoreSportsZone.com. So certainly a year to remember this year as we wrap up the season. Not quite done, but seeing some of these teams excel towards the end of the year. And now we're going to be transitioning into spring sports as those seasons are underway with practice. Your high school baseball, softball, track and field, tennis as well. So those sports are getting underway, and we'll be reporting on those scores and recaps over the next few weeks as they get underway with their spring competition. And we're going to try to get out and get some highlights of spring competition this year to be able to bring on the roundtable each week. So we're going to try to do that this spring. But looking forward to wrapping up this basketball season. These will be our final broadcast tonight. Be sure to tune in live with us at 6 o'clock. We bring the boys and girls, starting with the girls at 6. Class 4 quarterfinals, the Dexter Lady Bearcats versus the Country Day Rams, MICDS Rams. That'll be tonight at 6 o'clock live from the Farmington Civic Center, followed by the boys' Class 4 quarterfinals, Sikeston versus Parkway West. Both teams having a chance to advance on to the Class 4 Final Four next week in Columbia. So be sure to tune in for our final broadcast this evening. And that'll pretty much do it for us today. We appreciate you for tuning in as always. And, of course, we thank our presenting sponsor for the roundtable this year, Harry Blackwell Ford and Dodge in Malden. Be sure to keep them in mind for your next automobile purchase, located in 2 locations, or the north dealership there on Business 25 in Malden, or on Highway 25 in Malden. So be sure to keep them in mind for your next automobile purchase, Harry Blackwell Ford and Dodge in Malden. And that'll do it for us today. Hopefully we'll tune in for our broadcast tonight. If not, we'll see you next week right here on another roundtable. Until then, that's Andrew Moore in the control room bringing you the graphics. And for myself, Tyler Widener, have yourself a great week.